Good morning. Good morning.
Hi, Brian.
How we doing?
Good morning. Want to ask you thoughts on the inside linebacker job opposite Jerome. You have obviously interesting options with McKinney and Landon, having him now back, Duke Riley, Sam. Do you pretty much know in your mind how you want to handle that position, which obviously we wouldn't ask you to share that with us? Or in your mind, is it just still an open competition with multiple players where you would like to see how it goes, with a Landon coming back, et cetera, over the next week and a half?
Yeah, I mean, we like the group. As you mentioned, there's several guys in there that are good players, and I think we think will help us. There's a lot of versatility in the room, guys who play in the kicking game, guys who can cover, guys who can play in the run game. We like them all. I mean, there's a lot of competition there. Try to keep as many as we can because, as you know, with attrition in this league, it's more likely than not that unfortunately somebody will get injured, or there'll be a COVID situation, or we're going to need as many able bodies as possible. And we like all those guys. You mentioned them all, and it's a good group. They work well together. They work well with their teammates. There's some leadership in that room, I would say, and we'll just continue to work with them. And we'll feel good about whoever comes out of that room making the 53.
Is Tua playing on Sunday, and what can you tell us about the starters and how much they may or may not see action?
Yeah, Tua won't play on Sunday, and we'll probably rest most of the starters. Still kind of going through that as a staff. I mean, we got to play with. We have to play the game, so we're not going to rest everybody. So we'll see some guys in there that there'll be some guys in there who'll get an opportunity to showcase, or apply the fundamentals, the techniques, the things we've been talking about the entire training camp. Guys who haven't had as many reps in games, but there'll also be some guys who have played in the previous two games and playing in this one as well. So, but we'll try to rest, most of the, let's call them starters.
The receivers will all be out: Fuller, Parker, Wilson, Preston. Is that correct?
Fuller, Parker. I don't have this in front of me, so I believe Fuller will be out there. Parker will be out there. Again, with all these guys, some are modified. I don't have this in front of me.
I'm sorry, I wasn't clear.
Yeah.
Do you expect any of those four guys to participate in the game?
That's still being talked about. I think game reps are important, but we have to determine whether or not we want to get those game reps versus continuing to build and improve on a daily basis from a rehab standpoint. And really all four of those guys, we've talked about them. We haven't made a final decision on that yet. As far as today, I wish that's a mistake on my part. I don't have that in front of me. All those guys practiced yesterday. I believe you mentioned that group. I think someone's modified today, though. I'm not exactly sure. It's kind of a.
We didn't see him yesterday.
I don't think he mentioned Wilson. Did he?
Yes, he mentioned four. So yeah, he covered Wilson.
Parker, Fuller. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Wilson didn't practice yesterday. So Wilson will not be practicing. He didn't practice yesterday. I don't think you were referencing Wilson for the game, right?
We have clarity.
Yeah. Okay.
Brian, was the Lynn Bowden decision a tough one? Because I guess the other alternative would have been keeping alive the possibility of him coming back this year, but that would have tied up a valuable roster spot on the 53. How tough a call was that for you and Chris?
Tough call. I mean, Lynn did some nice things during training camp. Did some nice things at the end of the year last year. Had a good offseason. Did a good job in the spring. Unfortunately, he had the injury, and we felt like that was the best decision for the team. And fortunately, we won't be able to get him back. But it's what we felt was the best thing for the team.
Coach, yesterday Tua talked a little bit about his relationship with Dan Marino and working with him. I was just curious if you could maybe detail a little bit of that relationship and the value of having an all-time great like Dan talking to Tua.
I mean, it's someone with Dan's experience, his insight, his knowledge of preparation, of being a professional, of playing in this league. I think it's always good for a young quarterback to have someone to bounce some ideas off, get some mentorship from. And Dan's been that for Tua and Jacoby and Reed. It's nice to have someone like that, around the building for those guys to bounce some ideas off, bounce some thoughts off of, and someone who's actually played the position in this league and done it at a high level. So I think that's always good for the player.
You mentioned that the starters won't play. I know that some of the starters. What about the offensive line? One, I don't know if you have enough to make it through a full game with the non-starters, but also there's still competitions going on there. Is that still a position that you're trying to evaluate heading into the Bengals game?
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely trying to evaluate that. I mean, we've got I think I want to say 12 linemen on the roster right now. So, we may or may not rest a couple of those guys. I think a guy like Jesse Davis, we probably will sit him. The other guys are young, so we're still talking through that one. But I think we have enough depth to be able to, sit one or two other guys. And honestly, that would be kind of the depth that we would have in a regular game. So, if it's 8 or 9 guys. So, we're still, again, like I said earlier, we're working through that. I think those guys, it's a hard-working group. I think there's some guys in the back end who've, earned the right to get some reps, and we're looking forward to seeing them out there on Sunday against Cincinnati.
Brian, where have you seen the most growth from Kirk Merritt since last year to now?
I mean, Kirk's, just from he's grown from a work habit standpoint. I think he knows how, or is learning how to get on a routine, stay on a routine, believe in a routine, and believe in that, the extra work on the jugs and the extra film study and the extra, reps and sets in the weight room will help him and have helped him make improvements. And I think we've seen those improvements on the field, both in practice and in games. And I think he understands that, and if he continues to do those things off the field and in the classroom, off the field, in the classroom, in the weight room, from a nutrition standpoint, and he'll continue to make those improvements that he's already made. So he's done a nice job, and I'm very pleased with where the growth he's made.
How has Raekwon Davis's summer gone?
I think Raekwon's, his summer has been good. This is another young player who has become, we've talked a lot about Tua and his growth. I think Raekwon's grown a lot as well. Much more comfortable with his surroundings, with his settings, again, with his routine, with how he takes care of his body, the things he eats, how much he sleeps. I think that's something that Caleb Thornhill and our player engagement group has done a nice job of helping these guys, with their routines and helping them learn how to be professionals. I think that's something that young players need. They need some guidance on that. I think, as an organization, we try to help them with that as coaches, as Caleb and his staff, as a training staff, as a strength and conditioning staff. I think those different groups are kind of coaching these young guys in that area about, what are the best things for you to be the best version of yourself on and off the field. And I think our staff's done a nice job of that. But, we can talk all we want. The players have to take the information and apply it. And I think Raekwon's done a nice job of that. And I think he's making improvement, and we need to continue to make more improvement.
I'd like to ask you a question related to COVID and vaccines, especially since we're getting down to a couple of days before final cuts. we know that there are different things that can come into play where you could lose a player for like 5 days and also lose them at the last minute on game day if they're unvaccinated. They take a test and they come back positive. Given all of that, how much of a factor, if any, will that come when you're making final roster cuts?
I think we're going to keep the best players, vaccinated or unvaccinated. I mean, that's what we want to do. I think that's what's best for the team. I mean, I don't know any other way to put it. I think we're always going to try to do what's best for the team. I understand the question, and I understand, some of the issues that can arise. But at the end of the day, I think we try to assume that guys are healthy, guys will be out there, and what group of guys is going to help us help our team perform as best as we can, whether they're vaccinated or not. I mean, I think that's the most authentic answer I could give you.
We've seen one team in particular in the state decide to strengthen their restrictions on the road, where they're saying that all players, vaccinated or unvaccinated, cannot leave the team hotel. Are you considering any kind of rules above and beyond what the league's protocols are?
I mean, right now we're following the league protocols. We really haven't had any discussions like that. But we'll continue to follow league protocols for both vaccinated and unvaccinated on the road, in the locker room, in the dining meal rooms. We'll just continue to follow the NFL protocols, and if we feel a need to go above and beyond, we'll do that. But we have not had those discussions.
I wanted to ask you about your favorite unit, special teams, and when you're cutting down to the 53-man roster, how much say does Danny Cross and his group have in terms of who stays, who goes?
I think that's a big part of the final decisions that we make. The kicking game is obviously a big part of football, and we want to be good in a kicking game. So yeah, those when we're making those final decisions, what a guy can do in on special teams is part of that decision. The more you can do gives you more opportunity to help this team win, or try to win games, and that it definitely comes into play. But I don't think that's just for the Miami Dolphins. I think that's for across the league. A blocked field goal, a big kickoff return, a big punt return, a missed field goal. I mean, those are all plays in the game that if you take them for granted, that'll come back to bite you. So I would say, every team in the league makes the kicking game somewhat of a priority, especially when it comes down to these cuts.
Is there any worry that 3 weeks for the starters between last week and week 1 is too long of a time? And was last year with no preseason games sort of confirmed that maybe preseason games don't necessarily translate into the week 1 product being any better or worse?
I mean, I think different. What we need is potentially different than what another team needs, and I think when you start trying to just copy what someone else does, when you have different personnel, so what we have is the information that we've gathered on our team, the experience we've had with our players, but I thought last week's performance didn't hurt a summer practice schedule in a way with the joint practices and how we were going to play them in games 1 and 2, and felt good about going this route. So I would say last week's game didn't weigh in all that much. So yeah.